Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For KelownaNow, this is Camp Mulgat. And we're joined by Chris Bocskei, a neighbor of this proposed, I guess at this point it looks like it's going forward, facility at the corner of McCurdy Road and Rutland Road. What is it about this facility that has you so motivated to change?
The proximity to the schools. It's a student corridor. 1,000 kids go past this corner every day. It's going to normalize drug use. When the police can't arrest the addicts that are using it in the open street and make our school zone safe, kids are going to normalize drugs. Drug use will go up.
So you're envisioning kids walking to school and looking to the side of the path, and there's drug use happening openly.
That's correct.
Okay, the people who are behind the effort to get this housing project and others built tell me that no, you're providing housing for people. So for those residents that do have an addiction, they will more likely be doing their drugs inside now that they have a home. And they would be more likely to be doing it on the street or at the side of the path if they don't have one.
That's a great argument. But are they going to be given all the drugs that they want to do inside? They're going to seek to do drugs outside. Drugs are a culture, and when you're doing drugs, you're always going to be seeking more money to get more drugs. I'm sorry to say, I know what it's like. I've been there.
Right. Okay. Now I think we should mention this because you have walked in that lifestyle for some part of your life. You did have an addiction yourself.
I had an addiction. I was homeless for a bit because I wouldn't follow the rules. My father asked me to leave. I spent some time in the streets, got addicted to intravenous speed. Had horrible experiences, and ultimately I OD'd and spent about a month in the hospital. I was in isolation. I was over 16 at the time, but they wouldn't let me leave the hospital. I had my last rites. It was the priest that called my mother. I didn't call my family. I was trying to disappear. And I know that a lot of these people are in that same predicament too, but this isn't helping them. We need to help at the grass level. Start with people under 16, youth, that we can put them in forced rehabilitation. As Dr. Bocskei suggested, I think it's a fantastic idea. We've got to start at the beginning, and we'd have less homeless people on the street year after year.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree that that should be pursued. But here we are. We've got a lot of people well past the high school age who are entrenched in a drug use culture. Mm-hmm. There's other people that, and it overlaps, but who have mental health issues, and we certainly have too many homeless people. Do you disagree with the idea of just getting a home over their heads first so that you can make contact with these people and try to help them resolve whatever underlying issues they have? Are you against that?
I don't think what they're trying to do is working. What they need to do first is actually get an assessment for everyone. I understand that 53% of the homeless people have had a brain injury. They haven't been assessed properly. They need our help. We're not helping them by leaving them on the street and ignoring them. We're not helping them by sticking them to a house with a bunch of other people who don't have the skills and need more assessment. Wraparound services means nothing until they show us the facts. The facts are crimes are rising in this area. They're evicting the tenants because they're not following the rules.
Okay, hold on a second. I think you just said that we don't want to just leave them on the street.
That's right.
But yet, let's say if you and the other people that have been protesting this facility win the day and they never build it, well, then we just left them on the street.
No, we're not saying no build it. We're saying a few things. Number one, don't build them this size. Facilities of this size are courting disaster. Build them smaller. Have better facilities for them to wrap around services right away. You can't wait. They've got to get into a program. Number three, it's got to be abstinence. They have got to get into a program where they're not using it at all.
So the fact that drug use is tolerated under the roof is an absolute no-go for you and the other people opposed to this one?
In a school zone, yes. But they can find other areas.
So you're not 100% against allowing some drug use in one of these places, but it shouldn't be on what you call a school corridor.
That's exactly correct.
So how do you feel about the way this came forward, this particular plan? Did you feel that it was unfair, or that the concerns of the area weren't taken into account properly?
I'd have to definitely agree with that. There was very few of us that were aware what was going on the first time when they decided to make it a dry facility. There was hundreds of us at the city hall protesting that, and when they pushed it through as a wet facility, I think less than 100 houses actually got a notification in the mail. Neighbors, we stood out in the street discussing what our options were: selling, what we were going to leave the area and take our kids to another school, because we're afraid for our kids. I have a boy in middle school, a boy that just graduated RSS, and another one in RSS shortly. I don't want them walking past the facility seeing drug use, open drug use, coming home and asking questions that I don't want to be answering right now.
Just seems to me that wherever we put it, practically, there's going to be a neighborhood nearby, there's going to be a school nearby, and people are going to be opposed to it.
Well, it's got to start out with some better intervention at the grassroots. There's better models out. The Rhode Island model that I mentioned earlier. And
That's to deal with people who are inmates, right? Who have been
inmates, but stop them going in and out of they're drug addicts and they're homeless at one point, and it's just to stop the cycle. To stop the cycle, we have to. It's not a single or double prong approach. There's so many things that we should be doing, things that are working elsewhere. Why aren't we doing those?
Right. Well, my understanding is anyone who would wind up living in this particular housing project, for them to be approved, they have to show a willingness to take part in programs.
A willingness, but they don't have to commit to a single program. They can do whatever they like, and they've been evicted. In other cases, most recently at the Heath House, I just read in the paper that I think 4 were evicted recently because they weren't following the rules. What are the rules? If there's no consequences for their actions, if they're there because it's just a place for them,
right,
then they're not ready.
If this facility gets built, despite your protests, do you think you'll be in a position with this sort of organization that's practically formed around it to actually be there to monitor how it functions so that you can make sure that your kids are protected? Can you see it morphing into more of a neighborhood supervisory force to make sure that it doesn't become the nightmare that you're describing?
Well, I don't know if it's a nightmare to think about 19 to 24-year-old males up to 40 that may have addictions that are homeless.
I'm sure not all of them.
A high concentration in one area. They're not going to be inside all the time. I know when I was on drugs, I wasn't inside all the time. Petty crime is going to increase. It is going to destroy the neighborhood. The neighborhood will never recover. It'll never recover.
And you don't think that you could empower yourselves to make sure that that isn't the outcome if it does get put through as is?
I'm not done. This is never over. I will be there. I've already asked to be on the board so that we can certainly, if we do get forced upon us, that we can certainly discriminate between those that wouldn't be a good fit in our neighborhood. But we have no guarantees from BC Housing, from Sheila Turner, or anyone else that anything's going to happen. When you look at other examples like Maple Ridge and Nanaimo, where the crime rates and calls for service have gone up, we have no guarantee that we're not going to be negatively impacted, that our kids are going to be safe still. No guarantee. What we do have, though, is blatant lies, saying that the crime didn't go up, but the police are saying otherwise.
Who's lying to you?
Sheila Turner said that crime didn't go up in Maple Ridge, crime didn't go up in Nanaimo, when it certainly did.
Is it possible that you can measure crime different ways, the entire city or one neighborhood? And I think that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? I mean, I think we all want for people not to have to sleep in the street. Mm-hmm. But then if you put them all in one place, then that's creating a problem for that place. So
just too big.
So you've done better for the community, perhaps, but not so great for where you build a facility.
If they could make a facility that was smaller, it would be more manageable. I understand that its finances, probably they want to have more units in one area. It's more practical, I would guess, gather. More practical, but the impact in the surrounding community is too much. When you have a few drug people, ex-addicts or current addicts living in one area, it's a bit of a concern. But they keep doubling that number and doubling that number.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that we're going to be safe. There's no guarantee our kids are going to be safe.
Right.
I asked a counselor if a user is using openly in front of the big windows in front of Rutland Middle School, which is 70 years old, 10 years past demolition date, if he was going to be arrested, and I didn't get an answer. Yeah. Someone collapses on the road, they're not going to get arrested, and they're going to be back there again and again. Right. It goes back to saving our kids, protecting our most vulnerable. It's our kids. But it also puts a lot of our seniors at risk in that area too. It's too high of a concentration, so I think everyone's aware that after these are completed, 80% of the wet facilities will be housed in Rutland. There's 13 communities in Kelowna, and we are one. We're 28,000 people in Rutland, but it's just too high of a number in one area too. But if they could do smaller, it would be a great supportive housing facility for single moms or young families. There's other options for that building, and there's other areas, or other locations that they could utilize that wouldn't impact the children as negatively as this will.
Right, okay. Thanks for coming in and telling us about your thoughts on it. Chris Bocskei, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.